Good evening, everyone. Tonight is the October 20th Planning Board meeting. Bill Dye is out of the country and is not here tonight, but the rest of the members are here. So let's open it up and get started with RRFACF.
Good evening. My name is John Bennett. I represent the applicant. We did, in response to comments raised by the board, submit amended plans on October 14th, 2025. There's a rather long explanation of them in our covering letter, but I'll just go through them. Does the board have the map in front of them to look at? Okay. So even though this is a subdivision which is specifically exempt from the mandatory cluster requirements, and there's never been a mandatory cluster in the village until recently, and this application is exempt from it. And even though we were at well in excess of 20%, closer to 25%, there was a complaint that an area of an easement benefiting the lot to the south of the agricultural reserve, that easement was included in the open space calculation. So rather than argue about it, as we have done from the beginning and been very, very, very accommodating, we took the square footage of that easement, driveway and landscaping easement, which somehow, by the way, now has a playing court in it with a net. But in any event, we took that same amount of square footage and added it to the agricultural reserve area, slightly reducing lot number 1 and lot number 2, so that the agricultural reserve area remains identical in square footage, 309,767 square feet. So that should take care of that. In addition, there was a request that there be an area.
Excuse me, John.
Excuse me?
Where exactly did you place that?
We made lot number 1 and lot number 2 smaller by
Okay.
the same exact square footage, which is relatively easy because
So you shifted it
took a look
to the
the
south?
to the south. Correct.
Okay.
Then there was, as you know, there was a request for the non-exclusive access for pond maintenance, which we have shown on lot number 6. At the last meeting, there was a request for a temporary staging area down at the end to widen out the end of the terminus of that pond access. So that would be a temporary area for staging to be restored after each use. Remember, you're now down into the area where there's going to be buffer. So, you know, we have language that we would like to submit, but the last time Alice said it was the providence of the board council in the first instance to submit it. I think we might just go ahead and submit it anyway. Because what it does is at least it brings focus on what we're proposing for the easement there, which is a non-exclusive easement for access for the village of Southampton and the trustees of the commonalty and freeholders. Non-exclusive for maintenance, that they can go in there. We'll have some notice requirements. We'll have some limitations on what can be done. We'll make sure that it's not going to upset anybody. This is not a general access for the public. And will require that every time that area, any part of it is used, that it be restored. Particularly in light of the fact that probably a third of it is within the wetland setback. So, but we've shown it physically on the map, and at the request of the board, we've enlarged it at the very end of it for the staging area. So that's that. These are map changes. Since site disturbance was an issue raised by one or two of the board members, we included in the package filed on October 14th a site disturbance map depicting the limits of disturbance. And the erosion and sediment control plan and details submitted depicts proposed project limiting fencing and material and equipment storage areas within the property during construction, all of which is proactive on our part. I have to remind the board that the yield on this property is 12 lots. The buffers that are proposed, and is 12 lots, we're proposing 7. There's no mandatory ag reserve, we're including that, and even added the area as a result of the complaint of the neighbor to the south, who has a lot which is a fraction of the size of these proposed lots. We'll also note that the objectant to the south, Mr. Spider, has a lot which is burdened not by a 125-foot wetlands buffer, but by a 30-foot buffer. And I know it very well because I did that subdivision. And it's a lot of pretty much the same size, a little bit larger than some, a little bit smaller than some of the lots shown on the subdivision map. So we think, what you did is you gave the project a negative declaration in conformance with the combination of the secret regulations and the village law regarding public hearings. You have kept the public hearing going. So this is a hearing on the preliminary map. We think that we've given the board more than enough information, and we would ask you, after you hear any comments from the public, to close the meeting, and so that we can move to preliminary approval. That would be conditioned upon, as it always is, among other things, an agricultural reserve easement and an easement regarding this access, non-exclusive access to the pond. We don't have anything else to say at this point unless there are questions. I think this is, everyone groans when people say how long they've been doing things. Oh God, good for you. But I will tell you that as I've done an awful lot of subdivision work, at this stage, you have an enormous amount of information on this property. And it's been a process which we have been extremely accommodative to the board and listened. We came in with a 10-lot plan. The board was uncomfortable with that. We immediately went to a 7-lot plan. We proposed the open space in one area. The board didn't like that. Now we have the ag reserve where the board wanted it. We fought very hard against this access. I continue to firmly believe, to a moral certainty, that it's an unconstitutional taking, regardless of what any lawyer tells me. But nevertheless, we have acceded to the board's request and provided this access to Phillips Pond. There's a complaint about using the landscaping and access easement on that parcel to the south as part of the open space, which my client found rather rich because she willingly gave that access to the owner, who's now one of the two objectants. But nevertheless, move it along, get it done. The Fowler family has been extremely cooperative, and we'd like to move this project to the next approval stage, which would be preliminary approval, of course, after you hear public comment. So again, unless there are any questions, I don't have anything to say at this point, other than I will reserve my ability to comment if there's anything raised which I find disagreeable or inaccurate or unfair or inappropriate by any of the objectants.
Thank you. Any questions? No, at this point. Hannah, any
No,
comment, question?
not right now.
No. Lisa, the review of the material submitted by your engineers, Can you give
We
everyone
received
an update on
the
what the
newest-
status of that is, please?
Yes, we received the new submission on Tuesday. It's with, there is a civil engineer who's reviewing the new submission for compliance with subdivision standards, and we'll have his comments on Friday. But this is a perfect time. I know there were some outstanding considerations that board members had, felt they didn't have full, ample time to discuss different elements of the subdivision. This is a good opportunity for that. If there's anything that's been presented in these materials that you still have questions about. I know there were, earlier there had been conversations about, you know, the view sheds and the screening, and those are conversations now we've had months ago. I don't know, if, but I know that it was mentioned that you felt you didn't have enough time
John,
to discuss.
please. Sorry, Lisa.
Yeah, so just to say that this is a good opportunity if you have, if you had other questions related to the subdivision or concerns about anything, that this is a good opportunity to discuss those if you felt that they were delayed because we weren't up to that point yet.
Right. Alex, did you want to add anything?
Nope.
I'm remiss because I did not introduce the new counsel to the planning board. Kim Judd is here with us on a permanent basis. Congratulations. The form of the agricultural reserve document. The last I recall, the planning board attorney was going to draft that. I know that you have one in the file, but
The last time, it was very specific what Alice said. She said, what should the document contain? And she said, that's easy. Activities allowed by section 301 of the Ag and Markets Law.
Right.
Because that's just about what every ag reserve document states. That's what I expect. If the board council wants to draft that, that's what I would expect. On the other hand, if the board council wants me to take a shot at it, be more than happy to do it, as I would be more than happy to do with the pond access easement.
yeah.
But again, I you know,
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
But were you aware of that when you transitioned with Alice? That
I saw the hearing on YouTube, but I'd like to call her and talk to her and see if there was something she had already drafted. It wasn't mentioned when I spoke to her, but maybe she does have something.
I don't think Alice has drafted anything.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So there are two items on your to-do list, both the agricultural easement and that maintenance easement, that I'd really like to see a draft of
Okay.
in time of review prior to our next scheduled planning board meeting.
Have
Okay.
you discussed what you wanted to be in the easement?
Anyone here care to comment?
We did go back and forth with that language, so maybe we can all
Okay.
get Kim our notes or our,
Okay.
look back and try and bring you up to speed.
Thank you.
Now, to ease the process along, would you like me to present a draft of the ag easement and a draft of the easement to the pond? I think probably, in all fairness, Kim's probably looked at 100 ag easements, but this easement to the pond is a little bit of a unique item. I know it was in everyone's head here. I'd be more than happy to take a crack at it, but that's your call.
Why don't we let Kim take the first shot
Sure.
at that? Thank you. I know you've already drafted something that's in the file, right, for the ag easement.
No, we just put in some, I think we just put in some illustrative examples all over the map.
Let's get a draft from
Okay.
Kim.
Sure.
You can put it in the file, and then you
Okay.
guys can connect and work on that.
Sounds good.
Nothing else? No? We're good?
If this is the time to discuss the ag easement, I want to do it on a totally different basis, but this probably isn't the moment until it's in front of us, but you decide.
I think this probably is to give Kim some direction, or at least discuss, so that we could start to give Kim some direction if it's something outside
Well,
the ordinary.
Kim, there's, in my view, with my limited experience I've known for a while, several decades, about 8 or 9 agricultural areas in the village of Southampton. All but, I'm struggling with the number. I think all but 4 are gone. It's been a consistent theme of the development of this village for about, well, in this case, it's about 130 years, but consistent theme of the development of this area of the town for 150 years. It is the evaporation, I'm using that word it's probably an exaggeration, the evaporation of farming area for other purposes, especially residential housing. I don't believe the village has yet had an agricultural easement within its jurisdiction. I've asked, I just don't think there's ever been one. I think there are 4 spots left. There's a small little agricultural area that grows mostly sunflowers, a few vegetables, which one of the Lynches has next to Bishop's Pond, next to the filled-in quarry. There's the big one that the Lachlan's last sold to the Metzicappa family down in the central village. And there are 2 here at the east end of the village. One is there and evaporating for Gary Halsey, but he hasn't developed it yet. And we have one here for the Fowlers for generations, which has been shrinking for a long time. Lots have been sold. It's not what it was once. That area is important to a lot of people in the village. We're sort of hearing, we're arbitrators of a lot of things that come to us for the village. And people are concerned that it'll disappear, that it'll be more houses just like all the farms that I knew there were. I think there were, when I was a young man, traveling every day to my house at the foot of Halsey Neck Lane, there were 3 farms, just on Halsey Neck Lane. They've been disappearing. I know developments there are lots of housing even north of Hill Street. And this is an issue that galvanizes opinion for us. There's allusion to it, which is pretty specific in the town plan, which was just redrafted 10 or 11 years. It goes every decade or so. Concern that there'll be none. And it's a legitimate, larger concern for planning purposes. I think that we probably are not sufficiently intelligent to deal with the first ever, probably, if not, a good lawyer will find it, a second or third for the village without knowing the plans for farming by the Fowler family. This reserve is mostly only subordinate to agriculture, in my opinion. It's not going to be farmed much other than farming for a while for the 7 acres until they do whatever they do with all the other regulation that pertains, from county for water, from the federal government for insurance, for flooding, for everybody who thinks the world is getting warmer, for those who think it's getting, all their sort of issues will be involved in somebody else's business for the development. But it is my knowledge, they've told me and other people, that the Fowlers have 2 other agricultural farms they're working, or they have hired people to work, that are outside the village. And over half of this reserve is for sheds and maintenance and stuff now and in the future, and they have absolutely every right, private property, they can do what they want, consistent with being good farmers. I hope they do. I'm planning on it for Ricky and his children and everything else. But it's used for those other plots. One's up on David White's Lane and the other's across the street in the town. And I'm sure they will get more development of both of those, subject to council for the town. I think our agricultural easement has to be in coordination with that larger enterprise, because this is the base of their farming operation, as they tell me, and they've been here and been before us, And John has been quite articulate about it, and David Warren has been pretty articulate about it. They're not planning to stop farming for quite a while. So we have to do it in a larger context. This is the base of a larger farming operation, and whatever those details are, I think we have to be effectively subordinated to it. They're gonna have tractors and everything else, people, labor. There's an issue for the zoning board with a house. All that's subordinated to a farming operation, which is shrinking in the village, but it is still a real operation. And I just stay, I guess, for the record, I can write this all down, John, if you want it in black and white. So you can, people, I'm so really sorry for Midge and Ricky to say, look, this is just the tail wagging the dog. We're in charge of the tail for these purposes. And all that we do for this little, it's over a half, maybe it's 60% of the reserved, of the not to be developed land according to this plan. This is the tail wagging the dog, and I want to make sure we know about the dog. That's my speech. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you. How would you do that? I mean,
Hey, I would get counsel to talk to his client, and I'd go have a beer with Rich Warren in his new house. I mean, I'd find out. So what are their plans? I mean, Ricky says he's going to keep farming. Sometimes he says he may want to have a stable. I mean, an agricultural easement's pretty broad for this little tail in the village dragging all the other stuff. I just wonder if they're going to farm. Hallelujah. He's in the nursery business. They're in plants and things. Their business ought to continue. I want to give them every advantage to do what they want to do.
so the implication is that if the business didn't continue, you would want to see something that addresses that? Is that
Yep.
what you're saying?
Yep. It's their business.
And how would you write that into a ag reserve?
Hey, I've never written an ag reserve. I've read about 10 of them. It's wonderful boilerplate. I've read all sorts of ones. Even Ahmed Erdogan did one. Oh, I've read a whole bunch of them, and they're all in the file. I've read a lot of them for the last maybe 15 or 20 years for the town.
Kim, Lisa, Alex, ever seen anything, heard anything like that approach? Not off the
No,
top
it's
of your
just-
head?
I think it would be novel to me, but that doesn't, not to say that it doesn't exist.
Okay.
Now, this is not routine. I understand. It's the exigency of the accident of the Fowler farm and their use of their private property slowly over about 100 years, I think. This is the result.
Just point of information, there are ag reserve easements burdening properties in the village of Southampton.
Okay.
Glen Halsey's subdivision to the west on the same side of the
Yeah,
road.
that's one of mine.
And then the Halsey subdivision
They do
to
it.
the
They do an ag
north,
reserve. They
which
do an
is-
ag reserve for
Yeah,
what?
the ag
Glen-
reserves.
what,
The,
Glen?
the Halsey subdivision to the north is very, very, very deceiving because people drive by it and they say, oh, that's a big ag reserve.
Yeah.
There's about 7 or 8 lots in there that haven't
Oh
been
no,
developed.
I've been all
But
through
there is an ag reserve piece in there. And there's an ag reserve parcel on the Halsey property to the west. And I think I'm pretty sure I put those in the file.
Which
And then there's the old, I guess Bobby Giannos developed it. There's, I don't know if we're going to call it ag reserve, but
Hey,
those that
I didn't
space-
read it was an ag reserve.
I don't
Sorry,
think so.
Council.
But it's a reserve parcel up there in the
But
front.
that is not an ag reserve
Yeah,
per New York ag and markets.
a
But you
incredible lost opportunity in my own humble
No,
opinion.
I
but
understand.
That is
Yeah.
more of an open space.
That's more of an open space.
Yeah.
And do you know off the top of your head, is that public or private?
All private,
All private, including the parcel on
including the one that everybody, including the
North,
including the
next to
piece
the-
that your former member said she used to love to walk on.
I'm talking about the
trespass
piece
on.
on the northeast
That big
corner of
open
Wickapog and
yeah.
Old Town. That is private.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
private.
And on the
Halsey Neck, is that the,
Halsey Neck, the Mezzacapa property, there's no development. Those are all intact development parcels.
that's not
Between
subject to an
Cooper's
ag,
Neck and Halsey Neck,
that's not an ag reserve?
that is not an ag reserve. Every day when I drive
I
by there,
understand.
I'm waiting for the tear to form in my eye.
I know.
There's a house in the middle of that. But
I
having
know.
said that, that is all fully developable property.
Was it-
I've had a million conversations with John
No, but
Halsey.
excuse me, you say there's an ag reserve over there?
No, there's none.
Oh, okay. I didn't think there was one.
There's not one on the north side of Wickapog, but there is one you said on the west side of Phillips Pond, which I didn't.
No, there's one on, if you're at this property and you
Sorry.
look across Fowler Street to the north, there's one there.
There's one there.
And then to the west, where you see Glenn Halsey's original single-family farmhouse with the huge garage underneath it,
Yep.
just to the east of there are 4 or 5 lots
Right.
and an ag reserve, with an ag reserve easement.
Which are basically the west side of Phillips Pond,
Yeah,
correct? Right.
that's it.
Oh, the lots are the west
Yeah.
side of
Yeah,
Phillips
the
Pond.
lots are the
And
west
the lots, actually, the ag reserve doesn't touch, I don't think it touch Phillips Pond.
The barns and buildings that
No.
support the
No problem.
agricultural use of those two properties right now are located on ag reserve, or are
I
they
don't- I
located
don't-
on
I don't- I don't
private property?
I don't know. That's about a 6-acre piece, I think, 5 or 6 acre piece on that, on the westerly Halsey piece. I just know it in my mind's eye as on the tax map. I don't know what's there.
The tax map just shows lots for development eventually
Yeah.
to the west.
Actually, the lots are, because I've looked at this for a bunch of people, their lots are greatly oversized lots, and there's
Yep.
no prohibition against further subdivision on any of it.
Yep, I don't recognize the existence of any ag reserve with respect to any of that land to the
Well,
west
there
of
is.
the
There is
road.
one piece. Alan is about a 5 or 6 acre piece on that, what I'll call Halsey
I'd love
West.
to get a copy and read it.
I think I submitted it some time ago,
Okay.
but we'll get it for you.
Thank you.
Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I was just trying to clarify.
Yep.
I have a question on the easement.
Sure.
Can you explain, no, you're taking the easement square
Which-
footage and adding it, that was in our original ag reserve?
Yep.
And we're adding it. How was that decision made, and where to put that square footage? And
Well, it was a no-brainer. You have lots number 1 and lots number 2.
Mhm.
If you take, when you run square footage from a linear, piece along, what have we got, 250, 275, it's almost 600 feet. It adds up pretty quickly. So it's just easy just to shrink lot number 1 and lot number 2 and move the boundary lines of lot number 1, the northerly boundary lines of lots number 1 and lots number 2 a little bit to the south.
So I
This is-
think they took the square footage
Right,
here.
right, but
And
here.
then just took this
That's
line
exactly
and
right.
moved it
Mhm.
to the right.
Didn't take much.
To
Mhm.
equate that
Yes,
square footage.
I understand.
So it was a apples to apples swap.
Yeah. There's no other place.
Was there
where
a
it goes.
reason that we couldn't have more frontage on Fowler to create kind of a visual corridor, even though it would have been thin, just to extend perhaps the deer fencing and the visual into the ag
We
area?
originally presented a few different schemes, and there's a lot of water under the bridge, Amanda. This is where the board wanted the open space.
Right, but when we decided that we had this extra area, this
No,
sort
it's
of.
tiny.
It is tiny, but
Yeah.
is this perforated line something else,
Well,
or is that because I'm
every-
seeing right on the part that's on Fowler, I'm just trying to get as much of that
Every
stretch
si-
open view.
Every
You should.
single tenant
I can't
of
see that map.
farmland preservation would suggest that you add it, take it away from these lots and put it into this. You don't want
Mhm.
some strip, you can't farm it.
But you wouldn't be farming that, sorry, I'm not understanding, but you would be farming that because that would be part of our sort of ag reserve. So I just wondered if we were to
Well, but it doesn't make
extend it
sense to
slightly
create a
down.
portion of an ag reserve that you can't farm.
They want to farm.
So are we getting, is that line perpendicular to the street? We're not increasing it at all? We're not going down Fowler toward the beach any further with the new footage?
We went a little south. That's what
Is
we
this
were
the
explaining.
perforated line then that I'm looking at, or what line is that? It's not clear.
This is lot one.
No, that,
Right. I see
that
that.
line that you're talking about, that gray line, that squiggle line, that's actually,
It's a flood
that's a
zone.
flood zone.
Okay, so the line is a straight line that runs
Yes.
on the side. And you
Correct.
said it just moved over.
It moved over,
Mhm.
I think it's about 2 to 3 feet south of where it was, so you had a little more frontage on Fowler Street.
But the lots were so oversized that it was easy.
Follow instructions.
Do you have any thoughts about that as well? We were just hoping that even though it would be a thinner, just a part that would just allow us to have a little more
He's buffalo.
fence into the ag reserve as opposed to it. But
Why don't you just draw it? I don't know what you're talking about, Amanda.
be more, well, that line that doesn't have anything to do with it, like the perforated line that kind of gives a little bit more,
You have
View.
to show me what you're trying to do. I don't know what you're doing.
it's hard to explain. It's the line,
Why don't you just draw it on the map?
I think what she's saying is
Just please draw it
take
on the map.
1 and 2,
Right.
push 1 down,
6 feet.
and then make
whatever.
1 and 2 equal size somehow.
I have no idea.
We were just thinking about moving
Fowler.
this, take it this way, so that we had just a little bit of a strip of land where we
I'm
could
not
look
going to
in.
create a strip of land that's not
That's what I want to
farmable.
know. The thought was that
No.
it's just not doable, it's not feasible.
You're trying to make some sort of like buffer along Fowler Street, along the
Well,
road
we've talked
frontage.
about having a view shed into the ag reserve, so that's why we wanted the corner, and it would extend theoretically from the, beginning of Fowler toward the beach. So we were hoping perhaps, and I think it was mentioned at the last meeting,
We're trying to make more continuous agricultural space.
And that's what the ag
Yeah.
development, all ag development principles tell us to do that.
I don't care.
okay, I just wanted to understand.
So that's not something we're willing to do.
Okay.
Extremely accommodative. And the location, when we first started in the sketch plan and then the original stages of the preliminary, we showed different configurations for these lots and the area of and size and location of the agricultural reserve, and this is what everybody directed us to do. Am I right about that? So, I mean, you could play around with this ad infinitum, but gotta land somewhere, and you have to be consistent.
Well, I think Kim that'll be in our documents regarding the view shed into the ag reserve, which we wanted to preserve for the public to see the,
Well, that's
Not
not
a
being
farm.
offered. We're gonna farm and have privet right up to there. We explained the reasons why. It's not only for wind protection, but limiting, and we have not offered any of that. It's been discussed again and again and again and again and again. And this is all part of people don't like to hear it this way, but it is all part of a negotiation, including giving up 5 lots, including giving access to the pond, including not even fighting whether or not this easement should belong in an ag reserve that doesn't even have any current percentage requirements that are applicable to it.
Okay, anything else at this end? Thank you. Any other comments on this application?
Oh, just before, I'm sorry, if you can see this. This is the Halsey subdivision. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is the Halsey subdivision to the west. We submitted this back in August of this year. There's the agricultural reserve, and it's has it up Allen. just wanted to be able to see
Can you
that.
speak in the mic? Can you speak in the mic?
Alan, I just want to be able to see, this is the Halsey subdivision that I was talking about, and Glenn's subdivision to the west. You see, there's an ag reserve in there. I mean, it's relatively small. It wasn't subject to any of the mandatory requirements, but it's there.
Okay, John, now it's on the screen. Can you point it out one more time just for everyone? So,
Agricultural reserve. This is to the west, on Wickapog. Before Wickapog turns into Fowler. Because remember, Fowler, you're on what you think is Wickapog.
Yeah.
For a while, it's Fowler. But then you make the turn. And this is an older, when was this approved? Back in 2010? I don't know. I don't know if there are any buildings there.
There are no
These
buildings on
lots-
that lot.
These lots, which are, they're 5 acre lots, 5 acre lots, 5 acre lots, 5 acre lots. I'm not aware, I'll verify this, I'm not aware of any prohibition against further subdivision on them. But I don't want to misrepresent that to the board. I'll take a look at it. Probably says no further subdivision without planning board approval, but I'll take a look at it. But this, as you accurately pointed out, this is the west side of Phillips.
yeah.
With no access. No access. There is we talked about this a lot, there's a drainage easement that runs to the village.
It's the Bennett drainage ditch from the
Down
north.
to the, over here somewhere. Remember that? I think we submitted it. I think it's generally in the easterly area of the property. Right around here, there's a drainage easement. It is? Oh, yeah.
It's there. It's because
Oh, yeah, drainage easement with the village. Oh, yeah, there's a dotted line right there.
all that area still follows the rule of water going downhill.
Say again?
All
Yes.
that area follows
Water
the rule
flows
of water
downhill.
going
Absolutely.
downhill.
Absolutely, Alan.
Because Halsey has to go downhill to Phillips Pond to go under the sand into the beach.
Yep.
The water goes down.
Yep.
Still.
But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Mr. Bragman and Mr. McMaster. That's, I just
Sorry. Thank you. Mr. Bragman?
Good evening, board members. I'm Jeff Bragman, representing Mr. Svider on his lot. This issue about the ag reserve not creating any kind of a view shed came up earlier in a couple of the earlier meetings, and there was more than adequate information and evidence that suggested that one of the inadequacies of the existing proposal was that most of it, or probably half of it at least, is a commercial lot. It's outside of the ag district, and it's covered with buildings, and it's got a lot of development on it. And the neighbors highlighted that. And as the board knows, there are two functions at least to ag easements. One is to keep open farmlands farmable in the event that we need suddenly to raise crops. And the other is to create and maintain the view sheds that are intrinsic in the village of Southampton's character. And we have repeatedly criticized the design of the proposed ag easement on both grounds. One, that it doesn't preserve nearly enough land in open space that's available for agriculture, and secondly, that it does not do much of anything to create open space views, which are so cherished in the village of Southampton. And at one point, more than one time, I and other councils stood up and said, the proof is in the pudding. The board was unhappy enough with the way the lot looks over on Wickapog that you were very insistent on planting some kind of garden in front of it to buffer it, because it's unsightly. And now today, belatedly but happily, there's some comments recognizing the deficiencies and saying, gee, you're reconfiguring the shape of that lot in order to grab a little more lot area from the adjacent lots to make up for the easement. Why not, while you're doing that, redesign it so that you create some kind of a visual open space along the only street where it's going to do anything to preserve, maintain, and protect the character of the village of Southampton, and that's along Fowler Street, Fowler Road. It's a wise suggestion. I belatedly cheered to hear the board pick up on it. More than one member, including Mr. McFarland, who I think relatively eloquently stated the problem of disappearing view sheds, which is a part of the disappearing ag easements. And I want to be polite about this and say, this is a planning board. You have jurisdiction under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act that exceeds zoning, and you have the power to make this happen. You don't have to ask, you don't have to beg the applicant, please do something. You have the power and the right and frankly the responsibility to make it happen. Because if the end result of this subdivision is that you've created not nearly a piece of land that's large enough to farm, and you've done nothing to protect the view, well, when they come to ask what happened to our farm views, what happened to the idea of keeping ag lands open, don't look around and say, I don't know how it happened. Because the rubber meets the road here. And you have the power, the authority, and the right to make it happen. And so I would urge you to follow up on these suggestions and make sure that council gets the direction and put it into an ag easement and create that reserve area so that you preserve these precious qualities about the village of Southampton, which is what you're charged with doing. I was very happy to hear Alan McFarland talk about, it's referencing the comprehensive plan that laments the disappearance of ag lands from one reason only, the development of residential subdivisions. Well, here we go again. If you want it to look different and you want to save it and protect it so that it's there forever, you can do it. And you can make it happen, and I would urge you to do that. And while we're on the subject, we would like to have a look at the language that council eventually comes up with on both of these easements in adequate time so that we can come up and comment on them. This is not rocket science. It's not unusual. I know the chairman looked over at Mr. McFarland and said, how would we ever do that? Well, that's why you have lawyers. That's why God made lawyers. And in terms of getting it done, that's why God made planning boards. You have the power and the authority. Act. Now's the time. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the planning board. I'm David McMaster, and I represent the Albright family who own 534 Wickapog Road. I would echo Mr. Bragman's comments and just say that there's clearly a rational nexus between the board's mandate to preserve the community character through viewshed and the requirement of having the open space viewshed. So I would also encourage you to act. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I respectfully request that you close the public hearing.
Understood. Yeah, I'm not going to close the hearing at this point, but your comments are noted.
But I want to expand on it. It's very important, and you're going to hear a little bit about this about the next meeting, the next hearing that you have. The purpose for the public hearing is not to have a public forum for working out the remaining items in the application. That happens in open session. You deliberate, the public can listen. The purpose for a public hearing is to give the public an opportunity to be heard.
I'd like to, for the record, just come up with a to-do list of what we are still looking for, and what we need to move this to the next step, right? And on my list, I've got the form and substance of the ag easement, the maintenance easement, and thank you for adding that space there. I appreciate that. Lisa, on the soil management plan and just how that is going to work, we still want that correct? That shows how you're gonna add the 7, 8, 10 feet. I didn't see that.
No, that's
No, it's a drainage.
That's like almost a myth now. When these lots are developed,
Yep.
with single-family residences, they're going to have wastewater systems. So we're not adding, as part of the subdivision process, any soil to the property. When you come in, the health department approves the subdivision, they approve it, and they have a typical, they will have in the health department, the map that this board signs and the health department signs, it'll have a map that shows typical wastewater system. And then when you go to build a house, you have to come in and apply for a separate application for construction of a single-family residence for a wastewater system. If, based upon soil test holes, in order to meet the required separation between the bottom of the leaching rings
Yep.
and groundwater, sometimes in the limited area of the wastewater system, you have to bring in fill. Usually, the board, the health department pushes you if there are areas where the depth of groundwater isn't sufficient for what would be a typical wastewater system, which everybody probably has here probably has a wastewater system where you have a 9-foot pool and you've got plenty of depth to groundwater underneath it. But if you're in a situation where you can't achieve that, they'll require shallow pool systems, always trying to minimize the amount of fill. But those are things that are going to happen on the separate.
Understood.
Yeah, but we're not.
I think that's only part of it. Isn't there a FEMA aspect to this as well?
There's a number of aspects with the subdivision plan, and the subdivision plan will need approval by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. But what I would recommend at this stage, rather than getting into the nitty-gritty of is to let the engineer complete the full review of the subdivision and come back with any remaining outlying items. If there's anything missing, if it's sufficient, we'll have that determination
that's good.
related to the engineering requirements, and we'll be able to outline what's maybe necessary as a condition of preliminary plat approval versus final plat approval versus building permit.
And we're going to wrap that all into one package in terms of soil management, drainage, SWIP. That'll all be subject to
Well,
your
submitted
engineering review.
On the 15th, project limiting fence and all that.
Well, that's not a SWIP, but yes, the
they're
segmentation
reviewing it.
erosion. So we will,
Yeah.
we'll look at everything that was submitted as of last Tuesday, and we'll get a complete review of comments with items that should still, that if there are items that are still required or would be necessary, or conditions that should be added to any decision, we can note those. The language of the agricultural easement and the maintenance and access easement and the form and the substance of those is important to define. And I suggest that we also look back at all because this is now, there are things that we looked at back in, I want to say even January, that have not been really subject to discussion since then, such as the planting plan in front of the existing structures on the agricultural portion of the lot. If there's comments or thoughts on any of that, this is all going to be part of the subdivision going forward. So this is the time to look and make sure that those things are as the planning board would like them.
Understood. Anything else on that list that I missed?
The forms, the easement, the engineering review. No, I would say that those, once the engineering review may lead to additional comments, but the easement language and the engineering review are the main items.
Okay. Good, thank you. We're going to leave the hearing open. Motion to adjourn this to our next meeting on the 3rd of November, is that correct? Yes.
Yeah, November 3rd.
So moved.
November 3rd.
So moved.
Second?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye, thank you, everyone. 71 Hill Street.
Could tell this one's
So
adequate.
here, John Bennett, the applicant, I think John Rose is with me, and so are the Dee and Terry, who are the project sponsors and owners of the property. So the last time we were here, there were we went over some changes. Bob Smith is still working on those items. Theirs were mostly map notations and the like. And we hope to have them to Lisa and of course the board before the end of the week. We talked about pedestrian access. Seemed like we'd come to some understanding on the pedestrian access. We talked about the dumpster location, and we showed you how we were going to shift those. Bob assures me and he showed the radius on the map, that there's more than adequate space to get in and out with that dumpster for pickup, but we pushed those two compact spaces over there. So what I think we're left with is this vehicular access. We did, and I asked my client to do this specifically because people call me, I say, when people complain about their neighbors, I always say, I don't do neighbors, I'm not gonna get involved in that sort of stuff. They say, what should I do? And I say, call the person. Who wants to get a call from your neighbor's lawyer? You wanna get a call from your neighbor? So Terry put, at your request, Mr. London, and it was a fair request, put calls into the neighbor about getting access on the property, and we haven't heard anything. But what it made me do is drill down on what's going on here, and I did send a letter today to Alex and copied it to everybody, because I took a look at the site plan approval for the cinema, and what was done here is exactly what you should do for us. What does it say? It said the following are to be completed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And there is a CO for the building as a whole, but Alex informs me today that there are a couple of building permits that are still open. So I'm assuming they're going to come in for a renewed certificate of compliance or certificate of occupancy when they close up those building permits. But this is to be completed prior to a CO for the work, the renovated movie theater, which is going on now, and we don't care. But I want to tell you what this board did with the movie theater. It said to be completed prior to the certificate of occupancy. And I'm reading from a unanimous August 6, 2024 resolution of approval, which I sent to Alex. Submission of a cross-access easement for vehicular and pedestrian traffic to the adjacent parcel to the west, 71 Hill, at a location to be agreed upon by the planning board, the recording of the same against the premises. Submission of a general easement for pedestrian ingress and egress across the premises and the recording of the same. Checked with the title company today, did our own check with the Suffolk County records. Those haven't been recorded. I don't care, because they still have the ability to do that before they come back and ask you for a certificate of occupancy, even though they're fully in it. They're fully utilizing the improvements that they got a building permit for. Why am I bringing this to your attention? This is how you should handle this approval. You should just cut and paste the exact same conditions of approval that you gave the adjacent property to the east, which means that everyone's gonna have to come to terms with this before we get a CO, but my clients can go on and start arranging for financing, which ain't easy, arranging builders, get an approval, and file for a building permit. I mean, assuming we can, the other things that we have open with you, Lisa, assuming we can get past those things, which I'm sure we will, because it's just a question of, Bob Smith and Lisa's engineer and John hammering that stuff out. But I'd like you to close this hearing, because again, there's, let me see, I'm in here. The trustees approved this, they had 2 or 3 public hearings. The zoning board of appeals approved it, they had 1 hearing. The ARB approved it, they had 2 hearings. Jay Deasing spoke, he's the only person to speak, and he said, would you please consider opening up Radian Way? And I said, they'll probably hang you in effigy, Jay, the people along to the north, if you try to do that. But having said that, and we laughed about it, but that was the only comment, and it wasn't a site plan comment. So what I would respectfully ask you to do is to close the public hearing. Anything that is open can be left with conditions. It still gives us quite a bit of time for Lisa and Kim to draft conditional final approval, and let's move along. So, these folks who've got stuff to do can move forward.
Okay.
That's my
I don't
request.
I don't have an objection to that suggestion. We are still waiting for some things, right?
Yeah, we're gonna get it to you.
We still need the updated site plan,
Yep.
right? We still need some technical things, but
We're gonna get Lisa whatever she needs.
right. But I think we're close enough on the site plan because I thought we had agreement at the last meeting. It was just a matter of getting it on paper.
I think the only thing is the
Right.
access, and this is your path. You
Yeah.
just will agree to the same language that you
Yeah, and I don't have an issue with that. Are there
holding
any
the CO
objections?
over our head.
Any objections? Hen, any objection, or Amanda, any objection to that approach? Alan, are you good with that strategy?
Overdue.
All right, so motion to close the public hearing on 71 Hill Street?
We're gonna allow for additional submissions from the applicant.
Yeah,
Sub-
but that's
Subject to receiving the resolution
Let
of
me-
Bob Smith's
Let
work.
me explain my frustration here. The fact that you, and Kim will tell you this, the fact that you close the public hearing for the public doesn't mean that you can't, until the day you issue a conditional approval, say to the applicant, I want this from you, I want that from you, I want this from you.
Understood. So,
But you should perhaps just make sure there's no comment from the public online or anywhere just before you do, because I don't think we've opened it to that yet.
is there any public comment on this application online or anywhere? No. Okay. So we have a motion on the table. We still will allow submissions.
You close the public hearing and then leave it open for a written comment period. What is your typical written comment period?
Okay, I mean, I don't really have a problem with that, other than the fact, because I don't think anyone's gonna comment, but even if after the public comment period is open,
Yeah,
you want
thank
additional
Thank you for that reminder.
information, you can still
That
require
does,
them.
yeah, that
Yeah,
does
that's
start.
isn't that the written, that's the written comment?
No,
Time out.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you for reminding me. That does start a 60-day clock ticking.
Of course it does.
Correct. But
We'll get to the stuff. We've been down this road, everybody's.
yeah, no, I understand where you are.
And let me say something about the
But I'm
60-day
ro-
clock.
yeah.
I want to say something about the 60-day clock, which totally frustrates me. You know what happens if you don't approve it in 60 days? Guess what happens? I don't get an approval. There's one section in the New York State law where if you, as a planning board, do not approve something within a required time period, believe it or not, it's in the subdivision regulations. If you don't approve a subdivision on a final application within a certain amount of time period after the public hearing has been closed, I can go to the village clerk and demand what's called a default subdivision. is nowhere near any site plan provision in the village code. You know what I have to do if you don't give me a determination within 60 days? I have to bring an Article 78 proceeding to mandamus you, to compel you to give me a decision. So let's just.
So I got you. What timing on the updated site plan? How long, you think that'll be in the
Bobby
file?
Smith says he was trying desperately to get it for me today. Tomorrow. Well, we'll say Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
He promised it to me last Tuesday
I know,
Yeah.
it's a lot of stuff.
And then on the technical.
over his bourbon.
So
issues.
if we,
Yeah, see it
it'll,
first.
if, I'll put it, I'll alert my team that we're going to receive it this week so that it can be on there. But we can't review it until we have it. So we have
course.
nothing to review yet. So we're still waiting on information to review.
What do you lose if I leave this hearing open until the next meeting? And then we'll have all the material in front of us.
I know, because then the same thing, but it's it's not necessary. It's not necessary. Keep it open for 20 days. Close it, 20 days written comment period. Then you got 60 plus 20, 80 is 80. We're gonna be there. It's just it's not fair from a good faith point of view of the applicant. The applicant's giving you everything you wanted. Every change has been made.
We don't have everything we want, and we're still
Well,
waiting
no.
for a site
In
plan.
terms of
I
what you
appreciate
wanted
that,
on
but-
the site plan.
Look, I think we've always said that we're very careful to dot our i's and cross our t's with this planning board. So
Mark,
just
again,
in
I'm
the
telling you,
abundance-
it's structurally you're making a mistake.
I-
You
Yeah, I
are.
don't
You're making a
think
mistake. The purpose for the public hearing. How many public hearings do you go to for the planning board of the town of Southampton on site plans, major site plans, special exception approvals? There's nobody there to comment. They say, okay, close the public hearing, 10-day written comment period. This is public hearing has been open for 5 months, 6 months.
So
Look
Kim,
what
does
happens.
the 60-day clock start ticking as soon as we close the hearing, or do we have a 20-day plus 60?
I thought it was after the comment period.
I'll submit that it doesn't start ticking until, if you want to keep it open for 20 days for written comment, I'll submit that it doesn't start ticking until 20 plus 60. I'll stipulate to that.
Do that. Alex, can you guys live with that? Would it even, yeah.
That
Go
the
ahead.
60-day deadline to issue approval or denial doesn't start to run until after the expiration of the written comment period.
Okay, and then if the board wants anything additional past that point, you'll have to address that then.
I
We'd
don't-
reopen the public hearing.
Say again, Lisa.
We'd have to reopen the public hearing, right?
No,
Yeah,
no,
but I-
no.
Wait, time out. I don't think.
No, this is absolutely wrong. If you close a public hearing on a site plan, that means, okay, the public's had their opportunity to be heard, and we'll say close it plus give them another 20 days. If at the end of that period you say to me, I want additional information from the applicant before we issue the approval, that's fully within your power. This planning board is suffering under the myth that the only time things can be submitted is during a public hearing, and that is simply not the case.
No, I do understand that. All right.
I have plenty of times had public hearings closed and you're
Yeah.
still able to submit
Yeah.
changes as long as they're not substantial.
Yeah, but in the interest of negotiation, we'll do the 20 plus 60. So I'm going to amend my motion. 20 days written comments. We'll start the 60-day clock ticking after the expiration of those 20 days. So
I'll move it as amended.
amended. All in favor?
Was there a second?
Second. Anybody down here? Second?
Sure,
All in
second.
favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Plus access.
Site plan reviews, 865 Merrick Holdings, 22 Windmill Lane, no new submissions. Anyone here for that application? Alex, what's the best way to you just want to keep carrying this over?
Yeah, I mean, the alternative is to dismiss the case without prejudice, but that would mean they'd have to start over. You could ask the applicant to appear at the next meeting and explain the delay, or to put something in writing to the file to explain why there hasn't been progress.
How do we do that? Do you do that, or?
What you could do is you could make a motion to adjourn this to the following meeting
Yep.
and ask that the applicant either appear or put something in writing explaining the need for further adjournment.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
or
write
dismiss.
a letter to the applicant,
Or
just
dismiss
say
it.
how many times it's been adjourned,
yeah,
and state that the next meeting, if you don't appear or give an explanation, we'll have no choice but to dismiss it,
all right.
or to mark it off the calendar, however you word it.
Yep, all right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn 865 Merrick to our next meeting on November 3rd, and that the applicant either has to write a letter or show up in person and let us know what the status of this application is. Otherwise, we're going to pull the plug on the legal technical phrase there.
Dismiss it.
Adequately
Dismiss.
explain.
It's called
Second.
dismiss.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. 74 White Street.
Same idea.
Well,
Same
this is, this is a little different, because this is, we're waiting, they're still waiting for Health Department.
That was the last that I heard from them. That was
It's been
some time
going
ago.
on. This is so
For-
long.
Yeah, this has been going on for a while.
If we take action and they have to reapply, it's more revenue for the village, and the village needs all the
I
revenue.
hate to make decisions based on that.
Come on.
That's been going on since I've been on the board.
Oh, no.
So
That's
it's-
longer.
it's a-
Yeah, it's been going on since I've been on the board,
It's
too.
longer.
Oh,
Oh, no.
okay.
This is, I don't know when it started. The filing date was probably 4 years ago.
Yeah, so let's do the same there. So I'd like to make a motion that 74 White Street is adjourned to our next meeting, at which point the applicant will either have to write a letter or show up in person and give us a status update, but we're not going to continue to just roll this over with no information. Second? Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I don't think everyone got the October 6th minutes yet, so
I got
there's,
them this morning.
yeah, okay, but let's, are we okay with approving the September 15th minutes?
I read those.
Sure.
Yeah, motion
Second.
to approve the September 15th meeting. Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The 2026 meeting schedule is attached to your agenda there. Looks fine to me. We can amend this later, but if anyone, if you don't have an objection, I'm going to motion that we adopt this 2026 planning board calendar.
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And then, our next meeting is the 3rd of November. The meeting after that is December 1st.
Sorry, November 17th. It's to the
Oh,
right.
sorry, yeah, I missed that. I'm sorry. Thank you, Alex. So there's a meeting on the 3rd, then a meeting on the 17th, and then December 1st. All right, if there's no other business,
I'm away the 3rd,
okay.
so.
Maybe. I'm 50/50.
The bills.
So don't give away the
Bill's
view
back.
shed. You won't go.
Bill's back. I've got a 50% chance of
I think it would be helpful if, yeah, okay. Let's talk after. Motion to, no other business? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.